It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Welcome to County-Wide. I'm Paul David. Great to have you in studio today. We're going to be talking about DUI abatement and education today. Our guest is Prescott Police Lieutenant Tim Fletcher. Good to have you in studio.
Thank you, sir.
Nice to meet the other Fletcher. We've had your wife in here, I think, 3 times this year.
Sir.
She's the wildlife biologist for the Prescott National Forest, so we've had Noelle in here many times. She's always great, always a lot of fun, very educational.
Yes, she is.
She's a very educational woman when it comes to animals. Today we're going to educate DUI, though.
That's correct.
Holiday season's here, Christmas, New Year. We've had our Thanksgiving DUI patrols already, and we've had some other patrols in saturation. They're taking place around the state throughout the year.
Yes.
In all kinds of communities and stuff.
You bet.
Yeah. And you guys already had one, correct?
We have. Yeah, we did our Thanksgiving DUI task force, and unfortunately we had 5 officers working. We arrested 5 impaired drivers.
Yes.
So they're still out there.
That's 5 off the road, though, right there.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, let's start into it. Do we still have an issue with people drinking and driving, Tim?
Unfortunately, we do. You know, as much as we try to educate people, you know, don't drink and drive, get a designated driver, call a cab, call a friend. People still think that it's not going to happen to them, or they just don't care, and just go ahead and drink and drive anyway. Or what we're seeing a lot more of is DUI drugs, and so we'll see the impairment from drugs as well.
I think it's, you know, I remember when I first started doing news, it was DWI, driving
Correct.
while intoxicated.
Yes.
And then driving under the influence is what we call it now,
Yes.
because we don't know what might be in that system.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's not always alcohol anymore.
No, it's not. And it can be anything from illicit drugs, you know, marijuana, methamphetamines, stimulants, opiates, whatever the case may be, to actually being impaired by prescription-only medications. And we're seeing a rise in abuse of prescription drugs, but we're also seeing people that are driving, that are taking their prescribed doses of prescription medications and are impaired at the same time. So people aren't realizing that just because it's a prescribed dose doesn't mean it can't impair your ability to operate a motor vehicle. And they don't realize that they can actually be arrested for DUI while taking their prescribed dosage of prescribed medication.
I'm sure they're surprised when you pull them over and you say, well, you're DUI.
Yep, absolutely, some are. And we will actually direct them back to their prescription labels, to the bottle itself, or to the paperwork that they get with their prescription, where it specifically says, you know, don't operate a motor vehicle or heavy machinery while taking this medication. We explain to them that's because that impairs your ability to operate a motor vehicle. And then sometimes they'll add that prescription medication on top of other things that they're taking. You know, so maybe one, you know, prescribed dose of, say, Valium or something like that may not in itself impair their ability to operate a motor vehicle. But let's say they washed it down, you know, with a drink of alcohol. Well, then you've got a couple of different central nervous system depressants working on the body, and they do what's called an additive effect. And while one by itself may not impair, those two together can.
Well, what might affect you while you're driving down the road may affect me differently while I drive down the road.
That's absolutely
And the
true.
same thing goes with alcohol, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I guess when we get to prescription drugs, a doctor normally prescribes what's going to work with your body.
That's what they try to do.
And I would assume your weight would be involved in that.
It normally is, you know, and so you'll have, you know, a different milligram dosage based on body weight or whatever. But some people think, well, you know, if one of these is good, 2 of them must be twice as good, you know, and so people will take things outside their prescribed doses, their prescribed levels. But like I said, even though something is prescribed, doesn't mean that just because it's taken at a prescribed dose doesn't mean you can't be impaired. You know, there's things like Vicodin or Percocet, those kind of things. You take your prescribed dose, you are going to be impaired. You know, it just is a fact. You're going to be impaired by those.
It says that on the bottle as well. You mentioned about don't operate a vehicle, heavy machinery. It seems 20 years ago, we never even talked about prescription drugs.
No.
You know, we really didn't talk about those. When a DUI happened, it was always somebody had been drinking. But now,
that's what
changed?
I think what's changed more than anything is our ability to detect impairment by other things other than alcohol. Throughout the last several years, the drug recognition program, especially in the state of Arizona, has grown by leaps and bounds. Back in 1999, I was the only drug recognition expert at the Prescott Police Department, and now we have 12 or 13 drug recognition experts at our department. We have 3 drug recognition expert instructors at our department, and basically what a drug recognition expert is a person that can administer a test to a person that's suspected of being impaired, put them through a 12-step process where at the end of that 12-step evaluation, we can determine if that person is under the influence of drugs, and if so, with a great deal of certainty, what category or categories of drugs that person's impaired by. And so I think just our ability to detect it is what has increased, not necessarily the use of prescription medications. Definitely the abuse of prescription medications has risen over the last several years.
Oh, yeah.
You know, with people just going into pain management clinics and doctor shopping and trying to get, you know, prescribed medication just to get that, you know, unfortunately that high that they want, as opposed to going with the illicit drugs.
Are there varying degrees of DUI?
There are. We'll start with the lowest level of DUI, which is a DUI impaired to the slightest degree. And what that is basically saying that your ability to operate a motor vehicle is impaired in any way, shape, or form, and we're able to articulate how, based on how somebody did on field sobriety tests, how they did on a drug influence evaluation. And it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with what drugs or metabolites are in their system or what their blood alcohol level is. It is just that they are impaired to the slightest degree.
So the .08 does not matter in that
not
in that
regard.
One. Okay.
No, sir.
Okay.
And so then above that, on the alcohol realm, we'll stay there for right now.
Okay.
You've got a DUI .08 or above. You know, the law used to be, it was a you know, when I first started, it was a .10 was what was considered basically prima facie evidence that they were DUI. And so they were assumed that they were under the influence if they were above a .10. They've done a lot of studies. They've found that there's a great deal of certainty that if you're a .08 or above, you are impaired. And so that's why they lowered that level. And so there's driving with a blood alcohol concentration of .08 or above. And then we have an extreme DUI, which is driving with a blood alcohol concentration of .15 or above. And then they used to have just an enhanced penalty for above a .20. Now they've actually added a separate statute that has its own sentencing guidelines and everything, and it's called a super extreme DUI, and that is a person that has a blood alcohol concentration of .20 or above. If somebody, and all of those can be considered misdemeanor DUIs, and if somebody were, let's say they got arrested and their blood alcohol concentration was a .23, they're going to get 4 separate counts of DUI, because we're going to give them the count for the driving while impaired to the slightest degree, above an .08, above a 15, and above a .20.
It's big trouble.
And so they're going to get charged 4 different times, you know, for that one violation of DUI. Beyond the misdemeanors, there's aggravated DUI, and things that can make a DUI aggravated or become a felony is, one is if they've been driving under the influence and their privilege to drive is already suspended. If they're suspended in the state of Arizona or any other state and they're DUI, that automatically changes the charge from a misdemeanor to a felony.
Now, this is if I had a prior DUI and I'm out driving DUI again, or just a suspended driver's license, period?
It could be a suspended driver's license for anything.
Okay.
Let's say that you didn't have insurance on one of, you know, you got a traffic citation, you didn't have insurance, and Motor Vehicle Division decided to suspend your license just because you didn't have insurance at one point, and you were driving on a suspended driver's license and your DUI, it now becomes a felony.
Well, I guess that makes sense. I shouldn't be out there anyways. Okay.
Correct. If on the prior DUIs, if this is your third DUI offense within I believe it's a 72-month period, then it becomes a felony. And then the one which is, to me, one of the most serious offenses of aggravated DUI is if you have any children under the age of 14 in the motor vehicle with you, for every child that's in there under the age of 14 becomes a separate count of felony DUI.
Good. Take a break.
Oh no, you bet. I just want that's just one of the things to try to keep the kids safe.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah. Prescott Police Lieutenant Tim Fletcher's in studio today. It's a holiday season. We don't want people out there drinking and driving. You never know who you're going to run into. Stick around. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
Listen now, can you hear the bluebirds? Oh, look up now, can you feel the sun? Whoa, 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 can you feel the sun?
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Welcome back to Countywide. Paul David here. Good to have you along. Prescott Police Lieutenant Tim Fletcher in studio today. We're talking about DUI abatement and education. We don't want DUI drivers out there. Have a designated driver, call a cab, walk, do something, but just don't drink and drive. You never, or do drugs and drive. I still say drink and drive, and then I have to tell myself. Matter of fact, I think we wrote a story last week, and I was reading it, and it said driving while intoxicated or driving under the influence of alcohol, and I was like, we can't say that anymore. It's driving under the influence, period, of anything. But I guess the point of bringing you in today was that so many times you hear about the person that's drunk crashes or high on something, crashes into another car, and now you've got all these people who are dead, injured, whatever, and you know you touch so many other lives other than your own. And before we got to we started the show, you mentioned that. And I knew this, and I think just about everybody does, but when you start drinking, it kind of changes, you're bulletproof. You become a little more bulletproof, and you just aren't thinking clearly anymore.
Yeah, the first thing that gets impaired is your judgment, your ability to make a good, conscious decision. So the whole point of this is to try to educate people, get them to make good decisions, make a plan before they go out.
That's the key word, before.
Exactly. We want people to go out and celebrate, have fun, have a good time. We're not asking people not to enjoy the holiday season by any means. What we're asking people to do is plan ahead. If they're going to go out drinking with a group of people, designate a driver, and that designated driver is somebody that doesn't drink anything. It's not the person that's had the least amount to drink in the group. You know, if you know, plans change and it's like, our designated driver is no longer with us and you need to call a cab, well, call a cab. A cab ride home is a lot cheaper than the consequences of a DUI or the consequences of going out and actually hurting or killing somebody else. And we encourage people also that if they find themselves where, man, I'm stranded, I'm impaired, and I don't have any money to get home, we'll call the police department. You know, we would much rather try to figure that hurdle out, help somebody to get home, as opposed to have to go out and deal with them, you know, arrest them for DUI or deal with the aftermath of a crash.
Right, right. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, call the cops if you're that drunk and you got to get home. And you're the last resort, then make it the last resort. Medical marijuana, that's got to be a new challenge for all of you guys out there.
It really has been. It seems to have made marijuana a whole lot more accessible, not only to the people that are actually carrying the cards, the medical marijuana cards, but also to other people that are around these folks. One of the things is that people need to realize that just because they have a medical marijuana card does not make it legal for them to drive after utilizing medical marijuana. The statute is still on the books that if you are driving while a certain drug or its metabolite is in your system, and one of those drugs is THC, the impairing compound in marijuana, if that is in your system, you technically can be arrested for DUI drugs. More than likely, if you're stopped and somebody processes you for DUI, and they come to the conclusion that you've been utilizing marijuana, even if you have a medical marijuana card, you're going to get charged with driving while impaired to the slightest degree, because they're going to be able to articulate that there was impairment, and then they're going to get a blood or a urine sample that'll show that there is the THC or the delta-9 THC, the metabolite of marijuana in there, and they'll still get that charge for DUI drugs as well.
But I used my medical marijuana. I wasn't thinking straight.
Exactly, and
I had to go to the store. So
that's the sad part, is that the use of marijuana impairs your abilities, and it also impairs your judgment. And that's one of the things that people are cautioned about when they receive a medical marijuana card, is that marijuana will still impair your ability to operate a motor vehicle, even if you have a card that says you can utilize it. So,
plain and simple, right?
Pretty. We'd like it to be plain and simple, and it really is. But people just don't think about it. They think that it's not going to happen to them, or that's going to impair the other person. It's not going to impair me. You know, I know how my body reacts. And that's unfortunately not the case. I mean, we can show clinical signs of impairment on people that are habitual users just as easily as a first-time user.
I think your body's a little different every day, too. So who knows, it may have affected you this way yesterday, but who knows what it's going to do today. We need to take another break.
You bet.
Prescott Police Lieutenant Tim Fletcher in studio today. We're talking about DUI abatement and education. Don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs and drive. It's really that simple. I'm Paul David. Stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
A single ember from a wildfire can travel over a mile. That ember can ignite and destroy your home or community. You can't control where that ember will land. Only what happens before it does. Visit fireadapted.org to learn how you can help protect your community from wildfires.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got a couple of minutes left in the program. If you've never been arrested for a DUI, I guess the people that have been arrested for DUI know the penalties and what they face. But I have never been arrested for DUI or charged with DUI. But I've known people that are, and what a pain in the butt it is to be charged with that and have to deal with that, because it's not like you get a ticket, you pay a fine, or you spend maybe a day or two in jail. I mean, it carries on for a while.
It stays with you for a long time afterward,
Do you think they're stiff enough?
You know, it's hard to say. For some people it is.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, they just get a DUI time after time after time, and it just doesn't seem to affect
Some people
them.
just can't stop.
Exactly.
But for those of us who maybe require a wake-up call every now and again,
right?
Exactly what am I looking at? If I'm arrested for, let's say, DUI, 0.08. Let's start there.
That one, you're going to see a minimum fines of $1,250. There's a minimum 10 days in jail. 9 of those can be suspended at the court's discretion, so you will spend at least 1 day in jail regardless. And then all convictions of a DUI now require an ignition interlock device be installed in your vehicle. And so that's an added expense that you have to maintain. And the state law has changed now where if I'm driving my employer's truck, I have to pay to put one in my employer's truck also.
Oh, wow.
It used to be that the employer's vehicle was exempt. It's no longer exempt. A person has to have that ignition interlock device in any vehicle they drive.
The point of these is to make it so people just don't want to do it and don't want to.
Exactly. If they don't want to do it for the right reasons, you know, to try to keep people safe.
Good way to put it.
Let's try, you know, let's have them try to avoid the consequences.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I'm a 0.2.
Yeah, the super extreme DUI, that one goes way up. Between an extreme and a super extreme, you're looking at a minimum $2,500 in court costs and fines, minimum of 30 days in jail for the 0.15 or above, 45 days in jail if it's a super extreme DUI.
Wow.
And then you're going to have community service, ignition interlock device. And one thing that the state's done is that they also impound your vehicle for a minimum of 30 days if you get an extreme or a super extreme or an aggravated DUI. So we pull you over, we find out that you're DUI, we're going to impound your vehicle regardless, but if it turns out that you're extreme, we're going to hold on to that vehicle for 30 days. And that whole 30-day period, they're accruing storage fees, they've got a tow cost, and then there's an administrative fee in order just to get it back.
Real quick, how long will I be without a vehicle or not be allowed to drive a vehicle?
The minimum suspension period for a DUI is a 90-day suspension on your driver's license. Some people can qualify for a 60-day restricted driving permit, so there's a minimum of 30 days where you won't be able to drive, period. And then if it's a subsequent DUI, you know, you've had one prior, you're looking at a minimum 1-year suspension of your driver's license.
We are out of time. Thank you so much for coming in.
You bet. Thank you for having us.
So don't drink and drive. Don't do drugs and drive through the holiday season at any time. At any time. That's really the point here. Anytime. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's very expensive. You go to jail. All that horrible stuff is going to happen. Have a safe holiday season. Thanks for coming in, Tim.
Thank you very kindly,
Really nice
sir.
to meet you face to face.
Nice
It's always a little scary, isn't it? That's today's Countywide. We'll talk to you again next time.